Thank you for joining us for the Eagle Family Webinar Series. My name is Samantha Caruth. I'm the Associate Director for Family Engagement, and I work in the new Student and Family Programs team. I'm so glad that we're able to offer a few wonderful webinar resources throughout the year to help AU families learn more about what the resources are to help support your student, your Eagle. Tonight's topic is safety at AU, and I'm joined by my amazing colleague, Julia Gibson, who is holding things in the wings, and Rima Sifri, who's one of our amazing campus partners, Director of Training, and a few other wonderful things at American University Police. Our session is being recorded this evening, and we have a wonderful presentation, and we thank you also for submitting some questions in advance. We've woven that, Rima has woven those bits of information into her presentation. And with that in mind, Rima, I kick it off to you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Samantha. Thanks, Julia. I'm Rima Sifri. I'm my captain with AUPD, and my official title is Assistant President. Oh my gosh, Assistant Director for Administration and Community Engagement. So I'm the Community Engagement Officer. So that I'm the one that goes out with the officers and engage the community. And really, our goal is to educate everybody, right? And what to do, not only in the event of an emergency, but just really out there to continue to build that relationship with the community. I would be remiss in not acknowledging this. I have acknowledged this in every presentation I've done, that the national spotlight, what we're seeing in the national spotlight when police officers that look like me are killing people of color, let's call it what it is disgusting and abhorrent. We don't condone it. Our chief, Phil Morris, who's the former chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, has brought in credibility and integrity that I've never, ever seen. And we're held to very high standards, and we have an incredible staff. So we don't want to take anybody's pain away. I wish I could take all the pain away, but I can't. But we're just asking for our community just to give us a chance. You're not going to trust me overnight. You're not going to trust officers overnight. But after this presentation, I hope you know how seriously we take the entire community's safety, right? We've implemented so many measures. And again, I've been here for 20 years, never thought in a million years that we would be this safe. So it's just an incredible place to work and go to school. I do also am the victim's advocate. So I'll give everybody a trigger warning now. We are going to be talking about active assailant. We're not going to be talking too much about dating, physical, or sexual violence, but I want to let you know that I'm the victim's advocate. So if a student does need those resources, I'm the one that they can come to. I'll follow a quick report because I'm a mandatory reporter, but my goal and our goal is to make sure that that student is physically, mentally, and emotionally okay. It might take some weeks, but we want them to understand what the options are so they can make an informed decision on how they want to move forward. We want to make sure that we're doing what they want us to do. So that's really important too. We don't want to put any pressure on them to do a certain thing. The degrees in the background are not mine, unfortunately. This is Chief Morris's office, so nice and quiet. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I do have the questions. I haven't had too much time to prepare the answers, but like Samantha said, it's going to be integrated into our presentation. So with that, buckle up. Let's go, Samantha. All right. So as AUPD, we're special police officers. So that means we have authority on campus in any AU-owned building. We're a licensed police department through the District of Columbia, and more specifically, the Licensing Consumer Protection Agency of DC. We have arrest jurisdiction. We have the right to arrest, seize, and detain. Do we do that very often? No, because we're very much guardians and not warriors. We're here to help you. I mean, do we have to write people up sometimes? Sure. But when it comes down to it, I'm here to make sure that you're okay, and so are the officers. And you can look this up, the authority is derived from the DC Law 11-63 when it comes to the College and University Campus Security Amendment Act of 1995. So even though I can't go lights and sirens down to law school, we do get down there very expeditiously, of course. So we're responding to not only the law school, but Spring Valley Building 4401 and 4200 Wisconsin. Next, please. All right, so who are we as a department? We do have sworn officers. We have 30 sworn and then 14 police supervisors. And we do have to go through a 12-week academy. So this academy is pretty phenomenal. It's a consortium of universities academy where, I mean, AU really is the only university in DC. That's cool. But we go with AU, GW, UDC, Georgetown Law, Howard, Gallaudet, Catholic. We actually have now jurisdictions that are not part of a university environment have heard how great the academy is, so they're joining us too. So Smithsonian, DC Housing. It's just an amazing curriculum. I was a deputy director for a few years during COVID. Now I don't have much time, but our instructors, our officers, and our leadership are lead instructors in that academy, and we actually help develop the curriculum. So fair and impartial policing, LGBTQ plus awareness for law enforcement personnel, de-escalation, how to handle a medical emergency. There's just so many things that go into that training, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. So if an officer gets hired prior to going to the academy, which because we hire year round, they are given training, like in terms of, you know, what the DC code and law is. And then we also go over a lot of the stuff we go over in the academy. So they're ready to go. So they go out on the street and then perhaps might go to the academy a month later and then come back and go through another couple weeks of field training. So we're very big on training, right? We don't want our officers going out there and doing things that are contrary to what our beliefs are, obviously, and what we stand for as a department. So we're crisis intervention certified. So what does that mean? I have to go through, and so do the officers, have to go through a 40-hour class that deals specifically with mental health emergencies, whether it's a student that's diagnosed with a condition or a student who's experiencing a crisis, maybe a loss of a family member, maybe a bad grade. I mean, that might sound kind of elementary, but that happens here, right? I mean, students have a lot of high expectations for themselves, as do the family members. So we want to be there to help. We respond. It's a co-responder program where we go with the CDOD, the community director on duty, and we respond and we assess a situation, and then we work with the protocol, which is a counseling service on duty. And then we make a decision on what's going to happen there. We'll talk more about that in a second. Our officers do have to go through background checks every 2 years. We also have to go through a physical exam when we apply. And there's obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of drug testing. So we want to make sure our officers are, again, of the highest caliber. The great thing about our officers in our department is 2/3 identify as people of color, and a third identify as women. So for a predominantly white institution, that's just incredible. And I'm part of the hiring recruitment efforts. We definitely are fair and impartial in our hiring, and we want to make sure the students know that the person responding to their call is probably going to look like them. We are trained right now to carry less than lethal weaponry and impact weapons, so pepper spray and the baton. As you, I'm sure, know, there was a question raised as to firearms. We are doing listening forums for that, and I think we actually, I shouldn't say I think, we just did the last one. And again, now, you know, the next phase of the process start. I won't provide my opinion on carrying firearms. My opinion doesn't matter. It's what the community is thinking, what they want. So actually, if you could go back real quick, Samantha, I don't know if I addressed the stuff on the bottom. Nope. Yeah. So actually go forward one. There you go. We've talked about de-escalation, and we definitely follow MPD's use of force policy where applicable. Sorry. So go ahead, Samantha. All right. So Phil came in to the campus in 2012. He was preceded by his assistant chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. When I say that we heavily invested in physical security, it's an understatement. We want to make sure our physical security is top notch because we want to be a proactive university instead of a reactive university. We want to make sure, obviously, that all of our policies and procedures are based on prevention and take a posture where we're going to decrease the risk to the university. We did create a strategic plan, and again, it's all around security and risk mitigation and management. You know, the needs that we have on campus, and this framework obviously is, you know, we're making strategic decisions based on all of our best practices at other universities or what we've seen, and then also the experience of not only Phil and Dan's recently left, but Matt Roderosa is also the interim assistant vice president of risk management, he's also a former chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. So there was a lot of thought put into these physical security measures. A lot of us were asked what we thought, because I've been here for 20 years, and they, what do you want to see? It was just incredible to see the university respond as they did when Phil and Dan did come in and basically wrote us a blank check. Because we need to be as safe as we can. In my 20 years here, I never in a million years thought we would be this safe. And I'm incredibly proud to work for the department. Our officers are just incredible, and all we want to do is support our community. It's not about this. We just want to support you. Next, please. Okay. So when we developed these enhancements and other initiatives, was it just about run, hide, fight? No. It was really all encompassing and all hazards approach, right? We just didn't want to address that. Our American.edu/emergency has pretty much every emergency that you can imagine, and the process that we follow. Also, when it does come to active assailant, we recognize that armed police officers don't prevent gun violence, right? Having us armed doesn't necessarily prevent it. What does prevent it is talking to the Dean of Students Office and other important stakeholders. And when we do get some type of threat, we need to mitigate it. 9 times out of 10, you don't hear about the threat because we've mitigated it so quickly. So as we know, it's still very hard to talk about. Virginia Tech, UVA, and then Michigan State remind us that, police departments, armed police departments didn't stop the shooting from occurring. Although obviously response time is a significant consideration. What we wanted to do is deter and prevent violence in advance. Like I've said, we're proactive. We don't wait for things to happen. We are constantly reviewing our policies and procedure and seeing what we can do to make them better. Next, please. Okay, I'm going to give everybody a trigger warning. Again, we are going to be talking about active assailant. What has been going on in terms of that is unbelievably abhorrent. It's incredibly upsetting to not only those that are directly involved in it, are directly affected by it, I should say, but I think as a whole nation, it's just incredibly heartbreaking to see what's happening out there. Next, please. Okay, so what has Phil, Matt, and Dan done to make you safe? So the residence halls are locked 24/7. The front desks have alarms in them, duress alarms, and they have new access control technology that when the student does swipe, or actually anybody swipes, it shows up on the screen, and there's a box. There's the picture, sorry, and then there's a box with a color around it. So if it's green, that means that person's allowed to have access. If it's red, that person is stopped at the front desk. These desk receptionists are students during the day, but at night, I think from 11 to 7, there's a security company that's hired by Housing and Residence Life to monitor those entry points. So, but either way, whether it's the security company or the desk receptionist through housing, they are trained on what to do. And it's not a one-time thing. We're constantly talking to them, and we're constantly making sure that everybody understands what to do in any type of emergency. It's amazing, again, in terms of what we've invested in terms of technology and hardware. We are able to hit a button in our dispatch center, and it sends a remote message to all the exterior doors to lock down. That's immediate, folks. Okay, that's not a let's wait. We hit that button, it sends that message. Almost 100% of the doors. The other 4 to 5 doors have been locked from the outside so people can get out. But there are there's signs on the door that sometimes people don't listen to, that just to exit in the event of an emergency, only in the event of an emergency. So we have that enhanced capability. Also, we did an audit back in 2013 of all the classrooms. We found that 110 classrooms do not have locks on them. So what did we do? We put the locks on them, and that's what we include in our training when we're talking to the students and all the communications that we send out, right? We want everybody to know that it's run, hide, fight, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. So a lot of money went into it. We're so happy that obviously the university is going to support that. But again, we're moving, and we're really pioneers in a lot of things that we're doing. So we have obviously law enforcement partners, thanks to Phil and Matt. They have a lot of great contacts. So the Department of Homeland Security has come in now twice, and they're coming in next month. And they went in and they did an assessment of the infrastructure, right? And they took pictures of the entire campus, and now everything's on a flash drive so that when something does happen and officers are responding, then we can give them a flash drive and say, here's the building. Here's where the person is. It's not in real time, remember, but they know where they're going and where the hallways lead. In terms of physical security standards, again, a pioneer in this. We established standards that we did share, obviously, with the university. So I think not only as a department, as a campus, but as a university, we've really stepped up the game to make sure that everybody is safe. Excuse me one second. Also, AU has invested in an encrypted radio system. So not only can we communicate with the shuttle if there's an incident on the shuttle or residents' life, how amazing is that? And our own student workers when it comes to parking and traffic. We also have MPD's radio, so we can communicate with them as well. So again, another investment in the community safety. In terms of mass emergency notification system, students are automatically enrolled into the system when they register. So they should be getting the text messages. This last one on Monday, as all the other ones, there's 28,000 text messages that went out. So they should have gotten the text message. If they didn't, I've talked to a few students. They've been instructed to go to american.edu/emergency and make sure their information is accurate. And I'm on contact with them because I want to make sure that they get them. So if the student has gotten the message to shelter in place, they've also gotten the message for the all clear, right? And if for some reason they didn't get that, again, I need to know, so you can throw it in the chat or send me an email at sifri@american.edu, and I will definitely help you get that taken care of. So not only is the mass emergency notification text messages, but we also have speaker systems on all the emergency blue phone towers. We also have the beacons, and we'll talk about, I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself here, but we have this mass emergency communication through the Rave alerting system. So there's Rave alerts, and then there's the Rave Guardian app, 2 separate systems. Excuse me, we've also expanded the camera coverage. We have 604 cameras. When I first started, I think we had about 50. I mean, this is not something we're not surveilling anybody. What we want to do is deter crime and identify people. I walk in a detective suite, which is where I'm at right now, and either the chief's on the cameras or the detectives are on the cameras. We're using these to make sure that if a crime is committed, we want to see what the person looks like. What did they steal? It also helps people who have been accused of something and we're like, yeah, this didn't happen. So we want to make sure that the cameras are working. People, our dispatchers are looking at those cameras, and they've stopped a few things themselves. So these camera systems and all these systems that we've put in place have, again, taken us to a place I never thought we would see. Next, please. All right. So in terms of our partnerships, so the National Capital Region Threat Intelligence Consortium, we've talked about Homeland. The FBI has, in terms, we do have they created the Campus Liaison Initiative in 2008. So we have somebody who is our liaison, sorry. And we are able to talk to that person if we need it. Also, in terms of Metropolitan Police Department, they're the ones that respond with active shooter and armed intruder. They are the ones coming in and dealing with that. The new policy is the first one in goes in. There's no more of this hold and wait. I think we have learned, they have learned from recent active assailant incidents. So MPD is going to be the one, once we hit that button, send that text message, we call them in, and they're going to be the ones coming in and helping us get back to normal. Okay. Also, too, in 2019, we had Secret Service and U.S. Park call us and say, hey, we have our tactical teams ready. Do you need us? And we call them in as well, right? We want to get the campus back to full operations. And also, when we go into these lockdowns, I can't imagine how traumatizing it is for everybody. We have students that are victims of mass shootings. Fortunately, during the first year, I just did orientation for all the first years. I talked to a lot of great students, and some of them came up to me afterwards and we talked. And it's just very heartbreaking. So we want to make sure that we are supporting people, and then we're getting, again, I hate to say normal, but back to normal as quickly as possible. Obviously, DC Fire and EMS, we do a lot of pre-planning with them, so they come in even during busy times and say, hey, show me this building. So again, proactive, proactive, proactive. Next, please. All right, so in terms of prior weapon incidents, we have had a few. So you'll see the 4 on the screen here, and we this is somebody that's brandished a firearm, displayed one, was in possession, and lockdowns were initiated. We don't wait for the person to get to campus to go into lockdown. There's been 2 times now where the person was off campus, but could have been coming our way. So we initiated a lockdown. Phil, and that's what he wants us to call him, so please call him that. He really, again, I need to, he gets mad when I brag about him, but he's just phenomenal. And we went into a lockdown at an abundance of caution. So 2013, an individual entered the Eagle's Nest and had a handgun. I'm sorry, displayed a handgun to a contract employee during a domestic argument. December 2013, we received a report of an individual on campus armed with a handgun. That handgun was to their side. They didn't cover it properly. They were, God bless them, was an MPD officer that just graduated from the academy. That officer was, we responded to that. We didn't know that at the time. The tactical teams came out and handled the situation. They have their own protocols, and that officer didn't follow it, and it's unfortunate. July 2018, MPD notified that a man with a gun was observed walking towards campus. Lockdown. We're not playing games. We're not waiting for them to come on campus. April 3rd, an individual entered campus while stealing a scooter. The suspect was threatened and to stab the student and who confronted him before fleeing the scene. We have officers that go undercover with the permission of the chief. We are making arrests. Trust me. We will not allow this to happen, and we just won't tolerate it. We don't want our community terrorized. We want to nip things in the bud very quickly. Next, please. All right, and the last incident was April 27th of this year. We received a call that a member, not a member of our community, an individual had displayed a weapon and made threats to the student. The individual was seen walking up Nebraska Avenue. The officers who took their lives, who put their lives in jeopardy, because again, that's what we do. We want to help and we want to mitigate any threats. Made contact with the individual, took them in custody. It was exigent circumstances and found that there was no firearm. Does that matter? No. That person was arrested and will not be coming to campus. In terms of threat assessments, we've done 58 from 2020 to 2023. We have a lot of things at our fingertips in sort of law enforcement tools and agencies as well. And I think we're going to talk about the joint. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's the Fusion Center basically where there's a member of every agency in a room. If anybody watches FBI, that's what it is. And we're able to conduct a threat assessment and they give us information and then we'll say, hey, did you know about this? The communication and collaboration between our chief and the community and this Fusion Center is something I've never seen before. And the sharing of information, because we want to mitigate those threats, right? We don't want anybody to come to campus and hurt anybody for that matter. Next, please. All right. So additional incidents of AUP or MPD responding to campus for weapon violations. So a total of 35 have occurred where weapons were used or confiscated with AU affiliates, non-affiliates, and contractors. 27 of those were on campus, 8 were off campus or contiguous to AU property, and 5 arrests had been made. If we find a contractor or non-affiliate in violation of one of our policies, they're gone. There's nothing, there's no other way to say it. These types of weapons that we're talking about that were used or confiscated include firearms, prop rifle. They're all listed here: knives, machetes, brass knuckles, and ammunition. A little scary, right? But we are on top of things. We don't allow this. If we find out about a student, faculty, staff, we're on that. And then obviously, if we hear about an incident off campus, then we're going to take action as well. The types of crimes or incidents like on and off campus, again, or contiguous to campus property, they've gone conduct filings, so the student conduct, contraband confiscation include robberies, attempted suicides, and things like that. Students are in distress, and we handle those very, very quickly. Also, drug distribution or possession. Marijuana might be legal in DC, but it's certainly not legal on AU's campus. We're a private institution, and we're also federally funded. We do not play games with anybody's safety. We want to make sure that we are addressing these quickly and taking the necessary action. Next, please. All right, so university safety programs, this is what I was talking about in terms of the threat assessment. We work with the Dean of Students Office, the counseling service, human resources, if it's a staff member, faculty or staff, I'm sorry, staff member, our general counsel, our attorneys, the provost office when it comes to a faculty member, and we're also obviously part of that conversation. Our goal is to assess, refer, support, and monitor, right? If we get something, we're not sitting on that. We're taking immediate action. Why? Because every person that steps on our campus is important to us. Whether I know you or I don't know you, I am going to sit here and do whatever I have to do to make sure that you're okay. That's an opinion shared by the chief, obviously, and the rest of our officers. That's why we do what we do. Next, please. All right, so emergency preparedness, we've talked about that. We want to make sure, our mission obviously is to respond to any emergency, and I think I've said this 100 times, safe, effective, in a timely manner, right? We're not going to sit around and wait for, us to be told things, right? Or when we get something, we're not going to wait to act. We rely on the support of the community members, which is incredible. We've gotten tips through the Rave Guardian app. We have provided each academic space, really any common area on campus with the emergency reference guides to assist the community on like what to do in the event of emergency, right? Although we do all these trainings, you're going to forget, right? So the sticker is up in all these areas and it tells people what they need to do. We also obviously have our procedures and training posted to our website. We provide access to Run, Hide, Fight, and we will talk about that here in a second. This training is obviously critical, right? We follow the Department of Homeland Security's guidance. We've done that since 2013, and we want to make sure that we're always up to date and that the community is up to date. We also have flip charts. We're in the process of revising those just a little bit, some of the links and things like that. We also follow up with the safety and security procedures memo that goes to the community every semester. And when we do send a communication out about, hey, this is what happened, this is what what the resolution was, we are including safety tips and other things on that email just to remind people, right? We have a lot going on, especially the students, and we want to make sure that, inundating them with information is important. We're not trying to overwhelm them, obviously. In terms of Run, Hide, Fight, you can go. Yeah, actually, let's talk about Run, Hide, Fight now. So the procedure that we follow is Run, Hide, Fight. So we've talked about this with the first years. I did 12 presentations. It was incredible to be around the students. 4 years previous, obviously, or 3 years previous, I talked to a screen like I am right now, so I couldn't get it at engagement. But we had a great time, and I think we covered a lot of great information. Obviously, trigger warnings were given because we don't want to traumatize anybody or upset anybody. So when that button is hit and that message goes out, right, and teams are coming in, what happens is that all the exterior doors lock down and also the card readers that are inside any building, right? Now your cards don't work. It's heartbreaking for me to say that because I want people to get to safety, but as you all know, we don't want the perpetrator to get in. So if a person is outside in a common area or say in a vestibule in a residence hall, right, and they can't get into that door, they are to run off campus as fast as they can, right? And then they're going to monitor their text messages, because that text message is going to say Run, Hide, Fight, or shelter in place. So they're going to run off campus, someone on the quad, someone in the amphitheater, again outside of a building because they're not going to be able to get in. We train people, please don't open the doors to people. Again, another heartbreaking thing for me to say, because I don't want to, we don't want to get any, we don't want anybody to get hurt. But you never know who the assailant is. So we teach that. The next part is if you are in a classroom, remember what I said about the locking, the locks that we put on the door. And I physically went to the door and showed them how to lock the door. They're to hide. So if they're inside a classroom, they're to jump up, tell the professor, hey, we just got this text message. We need to lock the door. We have heard, and this is incredibly disconcerting to our department, pardon me, that some professors decided that they weren't going to go into lockdown. That matter has been addressed with the dean of faculty. It's unacceptable. And I provide office visits. And after this lockdown, we had a couple of people reach out. So I'm going to go back and do some more training. It is unacceptable that that didn't happen. So they hide in the room, they lock the door, the lights need to be turned off, their phone needs to be put on silent. Now, no one can prevent them from leaving. I can't even prevent them. So if someone wants to run because they don't hear something outside in terms of an active assailant, they can run. But again, we're opening doors, so we don't want that. However, if someone decides to leave and something happens, it is never their fault, right? It's an emergency situation. It's fight or flight. I mean, that's what they're going to do. So we're dealing with those professors, and we're going to continue those talks. One professor I spoke to even said, well, yeah, I know I locked the door, but what do you mean, but? There's no but. It should have been, and we did X, Y, and Z. So those, again, the faculty, the dean of faculty knows about this, and we're going to continue this training. And I guess I need to be a little bit more, although I'm very direct, not aggressive or anything like that, but we need to make sure that they're doing that. We will not voluntarily put anybody's life in jeopardy. That should be everybody's thought process. In terms of fighting, if the person does gain access to the room, research has shown that if the assailant checks the door and it's locked, they move on, thank God. But if the person does get in, what do? And this is what we teach again to the students. They fight. They're to take the person down to the ground. They're to swarm them. They're to throw things at them. I don't know if you can hear my water bottle. We tell them use your water bottle. Not to make light of the situation, but the students always, I want to make sure that I'm being engaging. I say, hit them over the head with your laptop. And they say, well, what happened? My laptop's going to be shattered in a million pieces. Well, I'd rather that be shattered in a million pieces than you be shattered in a million pieces, right? We've had students that freeze and they're like, oh my gosh, Captain Sifry, I froze. Oh, okay. That's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. That is okay. If you decided not to do anything, guess what? You're standing in front of me telling me that. So obviously you did something right. So we try to, these students, now granted, back when I went to elementary school and high school, we didn't have drills. I know there's a lot of drills going on now nationwide, and that's what's needed, right? But the students are still going to freeze. Faculty and staff might freeze. We have to support that because we're all human beings in this, and they feel bad. I'm like, why do you feel bad? It's okay. So run, hide, fight is what we use. We provide this training to community members in a lot of our communications. We're talking about run, hide, fight, and those safety security procedures. And my door is always open. I'm always available to conduct presentations. So if if your students want me to come talk to their floor meeting at 11 o'clock at night, I'm here. Like, let me know, right? I will make myself available. We do last year, academic year, we did 130 events. I was wondering why I was so tired, but that's why I was so tired. But I love it, and so do our officers. So that's what our goal is, right? We want to continue to build that relationship and show that when we wear the badge, we actually have the right to wear the badge, and we deserve to wear the badge. Next, please. All right, so the policy with MPD, I think I've already said this, is first one in goes in. They evaluate the situation. They come to us first because there's certain things that they get from us for them to be able to gain access to the areas. MPD and any other jurisdiction coming in, we work collaboratively together to decide what's going to happen, right? Like I said, the first officer is going to take those tactical measures to stop the threat to the community. We assist, right? we assist the armed police, emergency medical services. Why are we here? To protect life. And according to like what the legal protocol is, what our policies and procedures are. The primary role of AUPD, is to facilitate that rapid response. When they come here, we give them what we need to give them, and I don't mean firearms, I mean access control materials. And we facilitate, again, that flash drive, all those other things that are coming into play. We establish a incident command system. It might be inside of our building, it might be outside, it really just depends. But we are here again to help facilitate that response. So again, we've talked about that button that we hit. It looks like a fire alarm. We alert the community through the rave emergency messaging, and then we're calling MPD, right? That's really what it comes down to. And we have an incredible partnership with MPD. MPD only comes on campus when invited because we are a private institution. Obviously, if they're coming to get something to eat, that's totally fine. But when they're responding to, if they get a call for campus, they're going to call us. We also, when someone does call 911 from campus, we see that. We let their unified command answer that call, and then they call us and say, hey, can you all take care of this? If it's something serious, obviously they're going to come in. Next, please. All right. So that text message is great, right? But there's a lot more that goes into it. So not only text messages, but emails, social media. The alertus beacons, what you see is the second graphic that starts activating. It's taking that text message and alerting the community on what's going on. Automatically, AU students, faculty, and staff automatically subscribe to the AU alerts. Again, we encourage people to go into american.edu/emergency to make sure their information is correct, and they can add 4 family members to that. I know some of us have spouses. Obviously, we're not coming home anytime soon if this happens, not to make light of this, but we don't want text messages or phone calls. What I ask everybody on this call and just in general, that I know the inclination is to call AUPD and be like, what are you doing? Please, please just have faith in us that we're handling the situation. We have probably 150 years of experience in this building. And it's something that we are incredibly proud of, and the work that we've done are incredibly proud of. And to have Phil at the helm and Matt, there's 2 people that it's just unbelievable, and all of us, how much we care about our community. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but we have done, as you see, we've done a lot. Visitors and parents, you can text the AU alerts at 226-787 to receive the text notifications if you're not put on the account, right, by your student. Also, you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, any AU, we'll say owned laptop or computer, you'll see this flash on the screen. So if it's an AU laptop or computer, you will see that there's an intruder lockdown is in effect, proceed to secure location, and then wait to receive other instructions. So the alertus goes off. This is a sample of the text message that you get. And then these are the speaker systems that we do have on the quad and around campus to let people know that we're in lockdown. Perhaps a neighbor has come on campus and doesn't have their phone. We want to make sure that everybody knows. In terms of the neighborhood here, we are in a very affluent area, very safe area. We do talk to the students about going to off-campus parties. I know that's a shock, but that happens. There are off-campus parties, and we instruct them on what to do. You know, these parties, you know, maybe you don't want to go to, maybe there's a lot of people, maybe there's illegal things happening, right? Remember what I said about our authority. So if MPD calls AUPD and says, hey, come help us, right? These are your students, you know how to talk to them. MPD is great, but let us deal with them, right? So we come in, we talk to them, say, hey, listen, let's just get some IDs and see what's going on, right? To be very clear, if something illegal is happening, action will be taken. We have an incredible relationship with MPD, Montgomery County, Virginia police, like anywhere in Virginia. And when they find out a student's involved, they call us, much to the chagrin of the student. But we take action because they're responsible for what happens off campus. So also off campus, though, when they're going to these parties or wherever they're going, downloading the Rave Guardian app, which we're going to talk about here in the last slide, being aware of their surroundings. I know a lot of us have seen, really all of us, being on our phone. So we teach them how to be aware of their surroundings. Traveling in groups, whatever friends you went to the party with, you come back with, right? When you get to whatever house it is, where are the exits? Be alert on what's going on. Bystander intervention is also important, which is taught by Campus Life. So there's a lot of things that, although the community is safe, we're not like, okay, it's safe, we're good. But we want them to, if something does happen off campus, we want them to communicate that to us. Again, we're just not AU police. We're police that care about our community wherever they are, whenever something happens. Okay. So it's really important that, we have these engagement sessions. So constantly ironing home what they need to do in the event of an emergency. Things are on our websites. We're making the AUPD side more robust. We're having, we have like probably 15 brochures thanks to one of our awesome interns, because when it comes to technology, I am not your girl for sure. But incredible brochures and very comprehensive. And when we do those tablings, we hand those out. And then we have a QR code that they can scan. So it's pretty awesome, the information that we share and that engagement that we get back, right? We're here for those tough conversations. We want to be transparent. And that's very important to us. We don't want to shy away from the tough conversations. We want you to talk to us. We want to know how you feel. Okay. Next, please. All right. So if you have heard nothing that I've said, please make sure your student has the Rave Guardian personal safety app downloaded on their phone. I hear all the time, Captain Sifri, I don't have room. Please make room. This will save your life potentially. So the Rave Guardian app is, again, a safety app that they're going to download. So what happens is they go into their profile. There's a place that you can put a picture. And I joke with them about, not the one you were like super cute when you were 2. We need a current picture. Put that picture in there. Put your class schedule. I have my route to work. I have my vehicle information. Medical information is also important. Why? Because if we can't get a hold of you and your timer is expired, and we're going to talk about that in a second, then we can know. We had a student that got stung by a bee, God bless her, and we were able to tell the responding units that, please grab the EpiPen, right? They're already going to grab it, but to make them aware that that's what we probably have. Okay, so there's 3 different functions to that. So remember, you've set up your profile. That's the most important thing, okay? Roommate information. They can put 2 people on that as well. So when they set their timer, that person gets it. We do ask, though, on the top of that app, once they've gone their timer, there's family and friends, and then there's AUPD. Always pick AUPD. Why? Because we're awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm pretty sure you're not. So put AUPD as the guardian. So say someone, a student, and again, this is kind of a joke. I tell them that, hopefully at some point in their college career, they're going to go to Bender Library, which is a bunch of books, that building with a bunch of books in it, what we hope they visit, and say they're going to McDowell. So this app, once you've activated, is a personal safety device. It's phenomenal. So they get to their destination, they turn off their timer, they're golden, right? Now, when they've set that timer, a message pops up in our dispatch center, and let's just say me, Rima set her timer, so watch out for her. You get to your destination, you turn it off, you're golden. If you do not turn it off, or you don't answer your phone, or you're this much scared, we're going to start asking questions. Like when it expires, it's going to show up a map of campus with a pinned audio location and all these digital breadcrumbs, right? So when we call you, we know where you are, right? But again, if you sound like you're scared or whatever it is, we dispatch officers, pardon me, to that pinned dot, but also to the digital breadcrumbs. Why? If we go from one safe space and we go to another space that's not safe, we generally go back to that one, right? Because we know that's safe, right? This way, we know where they are. So parents have asked, it's very funny, they'll call and be like, hey, where's my student right now? We don't know. right? Because the only time we know their location is when that timer expires, right? The great thing about this is also works in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, right? So I joke with them that, they don't know what maps are, and there's, it's a bunch of lines and grids and a bunch of names and stuff. So that pops up on our in our dispatch center, and it shows where they are. I mean, this is just phenomenal technology. So again, even though they are off campus, perhaps, we are going to call them and make sure that they're okay. DC 911 also has a smart 911 system. They get the notification, but obviously we handle the calls. And if, for instance, excuse me, you're off campus and you need us, we're going to help you through it. So again, that pin dot pops up, we know where you are. So say you don't answer your phone, maybe you're in a bad situation. We had a student that was in a pretty stressful situation, which unfortunately provoked a medical situation. Thank God she called us. And again, I want to emphasize this: crime prevention isn't gender specific, right? Everybody needs to practice good safety. All right. So parents will say, well, what about it's not about your daughter. It's about personal safety. Everybody needs to practice it. Okay. So this student activated, we told them, hey, do you have the Rave Guard app? They said, no, they downloaded it. They expired their timer after a minute. We literally saw where they were. These are my fake lines right here in my grids. And we were able to get Montgomery County Police there in less than 60 seconds. Honestly, I don't know how much better it gets than that. This student was incredibly thankful. We firmly believe we saved that student's life. Again, this is not about tooting our own horn, but this goes to show what our efforts what our efforts are showing to the community and what we're doing for our community, right? Also, there's a panic button feature. Student hits the panic button, it sends us their location, and it also calls us. So Phil is very big on, if they're close, go get them. But if it's a different jurisdiction, we stay on the line with that student, and we we call that neighboring, that jurisdiction that they're in, the local jurisdiction. So we want to make sure that we're getting help to them quickly. Also, there's a way to text anonymous tips to us. It's amazing this semester. Because of our efforts, we have a lot of people's timers who have expired, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You never need to apologize. We're just very thankful that you're safe and that you're okay. So also texting us tips. I know this is going to be another surprise, but people are smoking marijuana in the dorms, right? So we want to make sure, or maybe they're pulling the fire alarm. And I told them a story while we were in orientation. We had a student, and by the way, we only do fire drills the first 2 weeks of classes because I'm mandated to do that. It's during 5 to, I probably shouldn't tell you, but 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We are not doing drills at 3 o'clock in the morning. I have parents who call, why'd you do a drill? That wasn't us. Someone was either burnt food, smoking in their rooms. But we did a fire drill. A student was very upset and got very upset with me. Come to find out that they were a victim who was shot during Parkland. So I told the students, you pull a fire alarm and we find out about it, then there's going to be serious repercussions. This isn't about, oh, it's a joke. You're traumatizing somebody, and it's not acceptable. Okay. So we've talked about the panic button and then the anonymous tip. So this is a safety app that everybody needs to download in our community. We obviously, we have safe escorts on campus. We do have self-defense classes where we also talk about these types of things. They're gender specific, gender neutral, and also trans inclusive, right? We want to make sure that everybody in our community knows that they hold value, right? We have gender specific where we have a women's class because we found out women disclose easier to other women. How amazing would it be for a trans woman to be a part of that class and feel that value, because they should feel value. And that's how we look at it, right? We've had 3 classes so far. We have 1 more in November. You can go to american.edu/police and sign up for those classes. We have 30 people registered. We have a huge wait list, which we're excited about. Next semester, we might have to add a few more classes, but we are taking classes by request as well. So if your student is part of a residence hall, or maybe they just have a group of 10 friends, send me in, coach. email me, let me know, give me a time, and I'll be there. Especially with floor meetings, we have a beautiful police station. When you're back in the area, let us give you a tour of that. We're actually going to start having those official, right, on a website. So we want to make sure that our community knows that we're here to support them. And even when a student does something wrong, it's like, come on, dude, just tell me what you did, right? I mean, do we have to write it up? Sure, but we want to make sure that we talk to them respectfully, that we find out what they did and what we can do to make sure it doesn't happen again. So that's all very, very important. And I think the next slide is the end of the presentation. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I forgot about global safety. So not only are we AUPD, but we are University Safety and Security Services. And one of the units in that department is global safety. So when your student travels abroad, right, study abroad, it's a great experience. I know it gets to be expensive, but it's a great experience. So we don't want to be like, up, you're another country, you know. We want to know where you're going. So what we do is we do a lot of pre-planning, right? So we work with study abroad and we do safety sessions. We are constantly assessing the risk in other countries, and we want to make sure that they're safe. There was an incident, and I won't get too much into it, but there have been incidents where there's, say, a situation in another country, and we've called every student that studied there within 20 minutes. I mean, how amazing is that for us to have that connection to them and then be like, oh my God, like AUP does care, because we do, right? So anytime we hear of a group like all the alternative trips, excuse me, for spring break, we talk to those groups as well, because we want you to be safe. Also, when COVID hit, we had to get people out of several countries. God bless that unit. They were probably here for 48 hours straight. And again, that's not anything to brag about, but that's what we will move heaven and earth to make sure that if we can help you, we are going to help you, period. So again, another great program that we have. Matt Verderosa, as I referenced before, the Assistant Vice President, Interim Assistant Vice President for Enterprise Risk Management, Global Safety and Compliance, doesn't play. And we want to make sure the students, even when they're going overseas, that they have the tools that they need to be safe. They can also call us if there's ever a medical emergency. We help facilitate that. Again, they're not just going and we're leaving them there. We are making sure that we're helping them anytime that they need it. So they know to call 3636 or 2527. We encourage our entire community to put the emergency and non-emergency numbers into their phone. If anybody wants those, I'll provide those now. So non-emergency, and Samantha, if you wouldn't mind putting them in the chat, or Julia, 202-885-2527 is the non-emergency number, and the emergency number is again 202-885, but 3636. Really what it comes down to is no matter what phone, what number you call, we're there. We're going to answer. So that's really, really super important. All right. So we have about 5 minutes. I think I've answered. Oh, sorry, go Samantha. Did you need to say anything?
No, I just want to see if there are any questions. You covered so many of them, the advanced questions in the presentation. So I'm looking to see if there are any questions. And I know that there was one of the questions about campus safety at night, walking from East Campus around. Is there a shuttle service? What kinds of pieces or safety systems are there in place for walking around campus and shortly off campus as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the shuttle service, it runs from main campus to Tinley Metro and then runs to Spring Valley building. It's running every 7 to 10 minutes. There's a red line and a blue line, and we've actually covered that in the first year orientation. However, I will provide that to Samantha, and actually I'll provide the entire slide deck for the orientation because, you know, sometimes sophomores forget. And as much as we send things to student government to disseminate, obviously we're all very we have fatigue from so many emails. So yeah, so the shuttle service, again, student can use the shuttle service, staff, faculty, and a visitor. We welcome that. And again, that interoperability. So if something does happen on the shuttle service, the shuttle bus, they're able to communicate with us. So also walking around campus, we're incredibly safe. It is an open campus, but we teach the students how to be safe, right? We're incredibly fortunate that the officers are always around, right? We have, remember what I said, 35 and 14, and we're always around. So we always want to answer questions. We do have our game face on at times. So we it starts with that hello. So anytime a student has a question, please, please, please ask our officers. But again, midnight, day shift, evening shift, we're always walking around. We're finding things or we're engaging with the community. So we find that to be very, very important. So I hope that answers the question, your question, Samantha.
I think so. I think so. And there are also some comments about specific buildings where the rooms weren't locked. So I'm going to send these to you so you can definitely investigate
Yeah.
Floor T in the SPA building. And also a student was in Mary Graydon Student Center during the All Alert doing an online class. So I'm looking for lockable spaces there as well too.
So also what's important, I know we only have a couple more minutes, pre-planning. So if your students are frequenting areas, let them figure out, and I tell them this, they need to figure out where they're going to go. The first floor of Mary Graydon is all open. So if they do frequent Mary Graydon, where are they going to go? They can go down TDR, they pull the gate, and no one can access that, right? So in terms of SPA though, in the Kerwin Hall, there are locks on all those doors, but please, I know that it's in the chat. I'm going to look at that. Also the Salto lock. So we have like these black boxes that are card readers, but we also have Salto locks. To the parents on the call, it's those locks on the residence halls. That is on a different system, so they can still access that if they're in the building, right? Not in the vestibule, in the building, so they can swipe and get in. Also, a person brought to our attention another locking issue, but it was a Salto door. All they had to do was shut it. So again, I don't want to say all they had to do, but we're just going to continue flooding the campus with emergency preparedness information. That's what we do that we've been doing for the last 13 years, right? They need to know that. Maybe somebody forgot. We are not blaming. This is not anybody's fault, but our job is to address your concern and teach you what you need to do, right? Continue to teach, because people, I mean, everybody forgets stuff. So that's another thing that is being addressed as well, that they know that. So that's really important, because they can still get into their residence. They can still get into their residence hall room. I can't call them dorms anymore. I don't know why. All right. So there are some other questions that I'm going to address via email, because I know there are some things. There are peepholes on the doors. If there isn't one for some reason, please let me know, Cifriat American. But those peepholes are on the door specific to see who's knocking, right? Remember that co-responder program, or what if it's somebody else that wants to talk to you? You need to know who that person is, right? Maybe facilities doing a check, who knows, right? But yeah, those peepholes are there. But if if somehow there's not a peephole on your student's door, please let us know. We'll do whatever we can to make sure that we get that done. So I know Samantha's going to close here in a second, but I know there's a lot of other things that you could be doing tonight. We appreciate you being here with us. This is being recorded. Zoom calls do expire after, I think, 30 days, Julie and I and Samantha talked about. So review that with your student. I am here to answer your questions. So SIFRI, SIFRI @american.edu. Please email me. And again, those questions that were previously provided, I'm going to work on getting some answers for you. So take it away, Samantha.
Thank you. I think that last question was, are there officers in the corners of Nebraska Avenue for students traveling between East and Main campus at night?
So we are aware of the student schedule. So yes, officers are in those areas. All too often, people just want to get home, right? So we do a lot of pedestrian safety as well. So they are watching that the mass exodus from the buildings, but MPD is also aware. So there's a lot of help there too. And again, if there's ever an accident, we're normally called to handle the traffic within that intersection. Again, if MPD is inviting us, we can go. So, and also we go anyway, because we want to make sure that no one else gets harmed, right? If there's an accident, pedestrian accident. So yeah, great questions, everybody.
Thank you so much, Rima. We've run over here on time. Thank you so much for presenting this
Of course.
information for families. This was really information for families, so you can ask your student about what they're accessing, making sure that your student is using the Rave Guardian app and can add you with one of those numbers. You also have the information that you can text so you can get added, families. And we will definitely post this recording sometime next week to the webinars webpage so you can go back and reference it if you have any questions. Rima has offered her email, Sifri, SIFRI, at American.edu. And then, of course, you can reach our office at eaglefamilies at American.edu. Thank you, Rima. Thank you,
Thanks,
Julia.
everybody.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
everyone, for
night.
joining us. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.